So our next speaker is named Henk Rogers. He's the founder and CEO of Blue Planet Energy Systems. He's a Dutch-born entrepreneur and clean energy visionary. He's dedicated the past decade of his career in a new direction. He's got a pretty big career and has backgrounds in gaming and software, but he's going to talk to you about the pivot he's made and the new direction. So without further ado, present Henk Rogers from Blue Planet Energy Systems.
First of all, I need to apologize for the glasses. I woke up 2 days ago with a sty, which has closed my left eye, and I don't want to break the camera. I'm originally from Holland, but now I live on the big island of Hawaii, which is the Pacific version of Iceland. We have all of the volcanic activity that you could possibly want, and we're also growing as an island. I've been to Iceland, and I've enjoyed it very much. We're also the home of Mauna Loa, which is the place on the planet where we've been measuring CO2 levels rising for the last, 50 years now. I was in the game business. I was in the computer game business. I wrote the first role-playing game in Japan. I found a game called Tetris and made a lot of money. I sold a little company little over 10 years ago, a mobile phone game company, for a lot of money. And a month later, I found myself in an ambulance. On the way to the hospital, they said it was just, they're going to take me in for observation, but it turned out to be 100% blockage of the widowmaker, which is the largest artery in your heart. If I'd been anywhere except Honolulu, I would have died on that day. I was 15 minutes from Straub, which had an angioplasty facility. I'm looking at the ceiling of the ambulance, and I'm going, "You got to be kidding me. I haven't spent any of the money yet." The second thing I thought was, no, I'm not going because I still have stuff to do. And I really didn't know what I meant by stuff. But in the recovery room, of course, they wouldn't let me go back to work for a couple of weeks. I found my missions in life. And so I feel now that this episode in my life is really something wonderful in that I was able to find out what my missions in life actually were. I mean, I had 2 weeks to actually think about it. So my missions in life are, number one, to end the use of carbon-based fuel. And this mission came to me in the back, thank you, came to me in the back of the newspaper was a little article. It's like, oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century because of ocean acidification. And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. You know, I moved to Hawaii first when I was 18 years old, and I was diving and surfing, and I fell in love with the ocean, and I fell in love with the coral. And I couldn't believe that we as a species could be so callous as to wipe out, I think it's a quarter or a third of the ocean species that depend on coral. So I said, no, we're not going to do this. This is, we're going to stop producing carbon dioxide. So my mission is to end the use of carbon-based fuel. I have 3 other missions, which I'm not here to talk to you about today. If somebody wants to attack me later, you can. To this end, I started a foundation. It's called the Blue Planet Foundation. And I started in Hawaii, and my philosophy is that I've got to clean my own room before I ask other people to clean theirs. And if you look at the world from the viewpoint of Hawaii, if you back off the planet and look at the planet, it's pretty much a blue planet. So it's a kind of a way of looking at the world, maybe ocean first. And by the way, we depend on the ocean for the oxygen we breathe and the food that we eat. So what do? We create legislation, we lobby. Our biggest success to date has been that we were able to get Hawaii to have a mandate for 100% renewable for electricity by 2045. By the way, the biggest threat to this goal is that there are Voices, the electric company, who is widely considered to be the most evil company in Hawaii. They're the biggest. They want to bring in LNG, liquefied natural gas, as a way to make it a little bit better. They call it a bridge, when actually I don't think it's a bridge, it's a pier to nowhere. And I'm trying to understand why they get to call methane natural gas. We don't call it natural coal or natural oil. It's coming out of the ground, but so is everything else. It should be called methane. It's 96% methane. So what's the next step? We've had all these successes. We've had all these successes, and it's too long to list. But what we're branching into 3 different directions now. And the 3 different directions, one is we want to make sure that we reach that 2045. So we have a report card that we do for Hawaii every year, which I think is a model for the rest of the world. Everybody should do a report card and find out how they're actually doing compared to every place else in the world. The second thing that we're doing is we got to do the same thing for transportation. I asked my guys, so how are we doing? And how are we doing? We spend $4 to $5 billion a year on oil. 30% goes to jet fuel, 30% goes to transportation, 40% goes to electricity. So I bid off the big one first, or we bid off the big one first, the electricity. But then I asked, how are we doing? And they told me, well, what do you mean? I said, well, have we decreased the amount of oil we import? And the answer was no. I said, what do you mean? We've reduced electricity consumption by like 20, 30%. He says, yeah, but in the meantime, the economy came back and everybody got back into their SUV, and everything that we've saved in electricity has been taken up by transportation. So now we've got to get Hawaii to also agree to another mandate of 100% renewable by 2045, hopefully sooner, for transportation. And this is not a hard thing to do. Electric vehicles for all of the islands except maybe the Big Island, where you might need a hydrogen vehicle to get to the other side. Not a big deal. Clap, clap, clap. Yeah, sure. So, I've been working on this. It took me 10 years. It took us 10 years to get to the 2045. 10 years, and I'm going like, wow, if I have to do this island by island, country by country, it's going to take me the rest of time. And so what is the thing that's holding back renewables in Hawaii specifically? And the answer is, we get to a certain point where we have, 15% solar or 20% solar, and the electric company is groaning, saying, we can't handle any more renewables on the grid or intermittent renewables on the grid. And so what is the answer to that? The answer to that is storage. So as a private citizen, and on my ranch, thank you very much, my wife allows me to do all these crazy things, I built a little energy lab, and we started looking into storage, and we started our search. First of all, we wanted to connect to the grid, big solar array, because we were going to do all this testing. And the first thing that Helco said, what an appropriate name for that company, it's the Hawaii Electric Light Company, said to us, well, we're going to need a $30,000, whatever, I call it a bribe, to do an interconnect study. And an interconnect study, what is that? It's them taking a year or two to do nothing. Or after a year, they come back and say, we need $100,000 to upgrade our substations. Anything to keep me from doing what I want to do. So I said to my guys, what does it take to disconnect? And maybe 60K. And, of course, that's not the true number. But we got started on it anyway. And the first thing that we did was we implemented a vanadium redox flow battery. And it worked for almost a year. And the thing got out of balance. And, this was a Vancouver company. And the president came out because we were doing a new thing with their vanadium redox flow batteries and so on. And it stopped working. They got bought by the Chinese and never heard from them again. So, I learned a lesson from that. I said, don't buy your battery or your storage system from a company that might not be around 2 years from now or 1 year from now. And so we started searching for another battery system. And we narrowed it down to Tesla and Sony. Sony makes batteries, believe it or not. They were the first ones to make lithium-ion batteries. And I have a long relationship with Sony because I was in the game business. Now, Tesla, Elon Musk is my hero. They asked me, I was quoted in the HuffPost, who's your hero? And I said, Elon Musk, because he's got planet-sized dreams, and he's got planet-sized balls to carry them out with. So he is definitely still my hero. And yet, the Sony batteries, they just made a little bit more sense for stationary batteries because they're so the Tesla batteries are lithium, cobalt, manganese, which is in your phone, your laptop, and in my Tesla, my cars. I have every Tesla ever made. And the Sony batteries are lithium iron phosphate. Lithium iron phosphate is a little heavier, and it takes up a little more space, but it doesn't get hot. It doesn't need a cooling system, so there's no moving parts. So you can have it inside your house. It is never going to overheat, never going to catch on fire. And because it doesn't generate heat or need to be cooled, it's more efficient. So instead of 80% efficiency, we got 95. Not only that, but because Sony is the one who makes them, they're making them to a purity of parts per billion instead of parts per million, and they last up to 20 years. And they give us a 15-year warranty. I mean, how cool is that? So where am I? Yeah, so I took my ranch off-grid. I took my home in Honolulu off-grid. And at first, I thought, you know, people in Hawaii are going to come to me and say, can you do this for me? And we started a little business helping people get off-grid. Because what happened is the solar reached a certain point, and the electric company says, no more solar. So I couldn't put solar on my roof in Honolulu because the electric company says, you can't connect. I said, well, to hell with you, I'm going to disconnect. And so that, you know, I call this customer like myself, pissed off rich people, and there are a lot of them in Hawaii. So, but we pivoted from the home system, and now we've created a 1 megawatt in a 20-foot container battery system. And that seems to be the thing that everybody wants right now. And so that side of the business is starting to take off. So, the future of electricity. So I started by becoming energy independent myself. I charge my cars from my solar, and my house is off the grid, my ranch is off the grid, I'm off the grid, except when I fly. And I think this is possible with today's technology. It's not only Sony and me, it's a lot of other companies, including Tesla, including SolarCity, that are going to be able to do this for people. We're going to be able to do communities. We are right now working in Hawaii on a 420-home community that is going to be entirely off-grid, partially because it's cheaper, and partially because Helco couldn't supply them with enough electricity for their new subdivision. Yay. My next target is islands. So I've been traveling around the islands in the Pacific looking at what their situation is, and I'm looking to help islands go off-grid. And then after islands comes countries. So basically, this is a whole bottom-up approach. The foundation does the top-down approach, where we try to talk to government and work our way down. And the companies that I'm working at start at the bottom, and we work our way up. The future of transportation, for Hawaii and every place, I guess, has to be electric cars, followed by hydrogen cars. And I mean, this is just going to happen. It's just a question of time. The issue is, how do I get to Iceland? And that is the jet fuel problem. And I hope somebody in here has a vision about that. I think that deserves an X Prize of some kind. So in conclusion, I believe that we in this room, we cannot wait for new technology. We cannot wait. There's no more time. We're out of time. We have to use what we have, and we have to do it now. We must all do what we can. Again, each one of us has a different ability of some kind, and we have to each contribute that to the future. And we must not fail. Thank you.